This video today is going to be a little bit more brainy in a sense. So grab your popcorn. If you're into this kind of stuff, we're going to be talking about the elasticity of demand and supply in terms of PC gaming and why. Because now that Xbox is basically taking out the audacity to go ahead and raise its prices, I think it's a lot more important that we start talking about the reality here and how gamers can start to hedge themselves as the generations turn over. I'm not a fan of consoles, never really been a fan of them since I left from the PS4 because I've realized that ownership in terms of your hardware is not necessarily yours because you're at the mercy of what it is they want to do with the hardware after you've purchased it. On PC side, there's a lot less of that shenanigans you have to deal with. Once you buy your PC component, you walk away with it. For the console, they start setting extra rules. Oh, you can't do this on our services. You can't do all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And that's where you already know that these guys have some level of control over the hardware. So recently, PlayStation went ahead and announced some price increases in some regions. And just today, as I'm making this video, May 1st, Xbox has also followed suit. Previous to that, Nintendo was coming out the wazoo swinging with wanting to also come out with some price increases as well. And all the fans of those platforms defended it. Xbox fans, you have time. Don't fall into that particular trap and defend what Xbox is doing with the price increases. The console proposition was sold to you that they would go in with a loss leader and that they would take the hit so that you may spend money on more expensive games and more expensive or maybe valuable subscription services. That's the proposition that they offered you. If they no longer want to give you that proposition and want to cover their losses, I'm not blaming them, but at least you should now be aware going into the next generation because they may go ahead and pull this shenanigans again because the generation is 5 years old and we're still seeing prices increase. Sure, they may want to cover some losses or whatever, but that proposition is starting to scoot away far and farther away from the console gamer. If this is not something that you're thinking about, I recommend that you probably start to consider it right now. The PC side, on the other hand, where we talk about the pricing and all, is very much predicated on something very interesting, which is, and I'm going to go ahead and explain it, the fact that PC components are decentralized. So you are the engineer and you get to basically go ahead and pick parts from a plethora, in some cases, a small collective of makers in order for you to be able to build your PC. This is where that price elasticity of demand and price elasticity of supply comes into perspective. It is definitely one thing that you as the customer can leverage to your advantage when it comes down to PC parts and PC gaming. So if this stuff is something that you say it's an inconvenience and you don't want to deal with PC gaming and you want to deal with just the convenience of console, that's fine. VG is not saying you should move to PC. In fact, this video may not be for you. I suggest you probably back out now. However, if you want to leverage this economic reality that happens all the time, that's helped me build multiple PCs, where in some cases I was building PCs and just giving them away. Because again, it was just like, this is just stupid cheap. But at some point, right, I started just to give them to my kids and stuff. Then you can pretty much understand where this is actually going in terms of this particular video. Now, no, I'm not giving anybody a PC anymore. Screw that. My kids are starting to grow up. They get dibs. All right. Price elasticity of demand shows that this is a measurement in the change in the demand of a product as a result of a change in its price. I'm going to go ahead and take an example and show you a particular item. And so you're going to see this in real time. Like in this case, the Ryzen 7, the 7800X3D. This item showed up on the block and it was really hot, disappeared almost immediately. Everybody was losing their minds. But one beautiful thing about PC Part Picker is it shows us exactly where these items and components kind of kick off their career in terms of, when they first launch. When it first launched, you can see that Memory C, B&H, and Newegg, can I zoom this thing in for y'all so you can see? There we go. All had the price anywhere from $687 to $475 at its peak. As of today, these same places are now selling it significantly less. I went with this particular SKU because it's one of the newer CPUs on the market. It's a little old, but I'm just using it as an example to show you what this price elasticity does for individual components. This is where you now come in, the person who wants to build your PC, and attack. I'll show you another one. Ryzen 5 5500. This is the one I usually use to basically do all kinds of console, bodying builds. Like this thing just bodies. It's $74. What? Bro, you're about to see price elasticity. The beautiful thing. This CPU started out at least around $124. B&H said $159. At the time that, Newegg got their hands on it, I guess, let's go back. Let's go all the way back. 2 years. Sorry. Let's do a 2-year run. I know this CPU was a lot more expensive when it launched. It launched somewhere. Why is this $86? Anyways, you can notice that the price sometime was around $150 or so. And as of today, they're asking $83 to $78. That's a 50% reduction. This CPU can match the CPU performance of your Series X and your PS5 with certain caveats. And I say match, it will also be in some games. In some games, those particular consoles will do well. But it doesn't put you far away. In fact, I've done some comparisons with games like Gotham Knights, which is still locked at 30 FPS on consoles. This thing can push you close to about 50 FPS. I need to put together a build with the CPU. I've given all the ones I build with this particular CPU, I build them for my kids. I used to also use it for a gaming build as well. My $700 build that I made you guys where I put this stuff, this is the same CPU that I also recommended. I hope you guys are watching very carefully how these prices are basically shifting back and forth. And this is the CPU side. You have to realize that the CPU is the point of entry in today's market for you to be able to go ahead and build your PC. As of 2016, it actually was the GPU. The GPUs were kind of cheaper from a cost to performance perspective. Weird. The market's flipped over its head. I guess the way chip shortages hit 2020, it was expedient to actually prioritize making more chips that you could basically, in a sense, package, ship, and sell faster than the other, chips, which are the GPUs, that would take a little bit more logistics, and people were not necessarily too keen on buying if they weren't scalpers or desperate. So this is something the hardware manufacturers seem to have probably pivoted to. And that's how this price elasticity is going to get you in on the PC side of things. Now, that's just the CPU. Then you got RAM. Then you got motherboards, then you got coolers and all these others. These periphery are not necessarily core. I'm going to do CPU, I'm going to do GPU, and I'm going to do motherboard. Those three, you're going to see them, come into play very soon. Another thing with price elasticity is also things like the GPU. A lot of people go into the GPU market and they watch, a content creator do something like, hey, look at my RTX 4080 build where I have all of these frames for days. And somewhere, somehow, in their minds, like this is an RTX 4080. But guys, don't be fooled. This 4080 pumps out content and it brings in ad revenue when you watch this video. So I'm not going to recommend a 4080 for you unless you give me a budget that the 4080 or whatever GPU encompasses. And there are people who've asked me in the comment section and says, hey, VJ, I want to build a PC. The first thing I ask them is, how much do you want to spend? Once they give me a number, I know exactly where to have them go. Here is the RTX 3060. In fact, now everyone is just telling NVIDIA, give up and just bring this GPU back because you guys clearly seem to have made a mistake. Right now on Newegg, it is $329 to get the Ventus OC version. It was a little bit more expensive a while back. In fact, if we go to the elasticity calculator, you see this GPU all over the place. It's insane. 1 minute it's at this price at $400. Next minute it's at this. Next minute it's at $289. Next minute it's at It just, this is what is going on with this particular SKU. Starting out somewhere around $350 to about $400, the GPU has seen prices move even as low as $289 in terms of its SKUs. In fact, look, you can see it here for yourself how these prices continue to, in quote, fluctuate, but that's because the market for PC gaming is so decentralized, because if somebody can't afford this, they have other options within other categories and other price points. And then when they can afford it, they sell into the used market and then upgrade. The used market is a huge pressure point for the new market. This is why the new market cannot get out of hand. The same exists on console. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying console doesn't have this, but you get to own the hardware without the shenanigans and the BS of the console manufacturers. This is where the PC gaming actually comes in line. Now, for those who want to jump into the technical side and say, well, if you're going to go ahead and buy these PCs and build them, how do we know they're going to perform as well as the consoles in those categories? That's a very good question. It's a fair question, actually. But here's the thing. You see, I think, and where's my tinfoil hat? That's a tin can. Let me use the tin can lid here, okay? Are you hearing it? I'll put it on my head while I say this. I strongly believe that somewhere, somehow, AMD, that almost fell down. AMD and NVIDIA have successfully found a way into the inroads of game development to make for developers to push their games, to push hardware even more, so that hardware eventually starts to go farther and farther obsolete. Let me explain. For instance, I'm gonna put the tin can down. Someone gave me these are Danish cookies from Trader Joe can that somebody gave me a few years ago. Oh my gosh, it was very delicious cookies. I mean, I don't eat that stuff anymore because at this age, man, you gotta stay clear of that crap. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at this. For instance, so Marvel Spider-Man 2, right? This game is weird because its performance is crud compared to Marvel Spider-Man 2018, which ran on less powerful hardware that was available at the time and was given stellar remarks and stellar recommendations. And pretty much this game is built on similar engines. Now, how NVIDIA and AMD must have done this, I'm not saying that this was a concerted effort. They probably implanted it, in my opinion, or inadvertently suggested it and provided what I think were, all kinds of APIs and stuff for these pushing of hardware, and some studios adopted it and others felt the need to follow suit so that they could be competitive. Hence, you notice that some games are basically tech demos. You want to see one? Cyberpunk 2077. Any game you bring out, you must actually, any hardware you're bringing out, CPU or GPU, it's almost like you must first come and present it at the altar of Cyberpunk 2077 so that we know how many frames it can pump out. Do you notice that in every presentation, they're like, oh, and this CPU shows 5,000 FPS on Cyberpunk, or it shows, this GPU shows 59 FPS on, do you not see that there is a concerted effort? Because if developers stay at GTX 1060, which is usually where their sweet spot is, like, for instance, look at the Cyberpunk 2077. Look at the minimum requirements here. Let me zoom it in for you. Look at that. Look at that. Right? This is a game whose minimum requirements requires a GTX 1066 gigs or an RX 588 gigs. This is a $90 GPU, guys. Yet, it's a technological showcase for the $2,500 GPU. Do you see what's going on? Look through and look around and look behind the curtain so that you can find out what's going on. Don't be carried away by that nonsense. Okay? What you have to do is basically find a sweet spot for yourself and then do the research. How do these games perform for games that I play? That's exactly where you have to be. Now, don't also let the console manufacturers all, play you, because many of them will make it sound like, oh, these games are all running at 4K and blah, 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 blah. Tetris can run at 4K on these consoles, but native 4K is not something that is easily achievable. Even an RTX 4090, which I own, finds it difficult to do 4K in most games consistently. And I own a CPU with cores and threads to accompany it, and I can show you so that you can see for yourself that it is not easily achievable in terms of games at 4K for this. So don't let these people play these games into marketing big talk at you, like you see on the box of an Xbox Series X, up to 4K 120 FPS, or on the box of the PlayStation 5 before they removed it, 8K support, in order for you to go buy a box that they're going to also own and control and put you in a very strange place. Use these concepts of price elasticity, in demand and supply, the fact that you can easily go ahead and figure out what the market, rating should be, and you can research it yourself by just, scrolling your mouse left and right. That's all. You don't even got to do anything. You don't got to go open up a spreadsheet. They got it all ready for you sitting here. So if somebody's asking you for $600, for $600 for an RTX, 3060, tell them to pound sand, because they have no reason for it. Because at the end of the day, NVIDIA wants to make money. People are going to buy it. You know what I mean? And people are going to sell used ones to upgrade, which would then drive the price of the old ones or new ones down. It is a very fun place to be in in order for you to be able to leverage your own hardware and sit down while these console manufacturers do what they want to do and be out of there. The learning curve, ladies and gentlemen, is no longer an excuse because that's how people were saying it. Oh, the pricing. Oh, the learning curve. Oh, the comfort. Oh, the convenience. Dude, come on now. Some of you fix airplanes. What are you talking about convenience? Do you know how, I mean, some people that actually watch these videos and play video games, they're airplane mechanics, automobile mechanics. They can rebuild an entire car engine. I can't. And I can build a PC. So can you. Thanks for watching the video. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.